welcome back to my channel. My name is Melisa Rodriguez. For those of you that don't know me, I make videos about pre-med, my lifestyle as a medical student, and also just sharing my journey. And today we've got a really exciting video. I have the director of admissions at my medical school, Monica Lopez. And I am so excited to ask questions. I actually post a story in my Instagram account asking you guys to reach out to me with questions for her. So I got really great questions and I'm super excited. We're going to start by just asking general questions about you. Introduce yourself a little bit to us, and how do you get to be a director of admissions, and how is it like being a director of admissions?
Well, hi everyone, my name is Monica Lopez and I am the director of admissions here at the FAU Charles E. Schmidt College of Medicine. Wow, it's hard to believe, but I've been doing admissions for the health professions for over 16 years. Don't try to guess my age. I started working when I was 10 plus 16, that puts me at 26. We're gonna go with 26. I started working admissions when I decided that I was done with corporate America. So my bachelor's is in management and marketing, and I was done with it. I wanted to do something more meaningful that helps people. And that's how the marketing part of my degree got me into recruiting, which led into an admissions position within a school that had multiple health professions. So I've done admissions for DPT, PT school, OT school, PA school, a little bit of dental, a little bit of pharmacy, but a little bit of everything before I finally had the bulk of my experience in a DO school. So I worked for almost 8 years at a DO school here in South Florida, and I absolutely fell in love with admissions and helping people realize their dreams. The idea to guide applicants to help them better prepare their application for med school, I absolutely loved. And then about 7 years ago, I got the opportunity to finish my master's because in higher education, you definitely always want to keep going and expand your knowledge. So I did a master's in educational leadership, started a PhD in educational leadership to eventually be a dean of admissions. But 7 years ago, I got the opportunity here at FAU to be director of admissions after having 8 years of experience at my prior med school. So I absolutely love it, love it. Here at FAU, I've definitely found a family. It's amazing. The difference between DO and MD when it comes to being a physician, there is really no difference. But what I like here at FAU is the small class size, and we're truly a family. And I love that here we have that type of student-centered, very much culture here, so I love working there.
Yeah, I can definitely back up that it feels as a family here. Everybody knows each other.
Sometimes a little bit too much, because I find out who's dating who. I've gone to 2 weddings already, and this class that just graduated has like 5 people engaged.
I know.
I can't wait. They were like, because of you, Monica, and making this happen, you're invited to all our weddings. I cannot wait, and
you make the perfect matches. Okay, so now I wanna ask you a little bit more general questions about medical school admissions, like what's the best timeline to apply, and first, why it's important to apply early?
That's a really good question, and it really depends. The consensus among the admissions officials across the country for MD and DO schools alike is that, apply early, because the application pool usually tends to be less competitive at the beginning. Why is that? It's because a lot of applicants tend to flood the applications early, but to their top choice medical school. So that's why some of the other schools that are newer, maybe not yet too established or too reputable yet, not that they're not good, they're amazing still, get smaller applications at the beginning compared to the larger schools with more reputation, have been around longer, which by the way, that doesn't always mean it's the best medical school. I just want to put it out there, because in our tenure, we've only been around 11 years, graduated 6 classes, but in that short amount of time, the success we've had, it really speaks lots of volume, and it just speaks to the success that we are as a medical school. So you want to apply early to your top choice medical schools, because again, that's when usually the school that you're probably going to have the best chance getting into just has the least amount of applications. Because as the admission cycle progresses and those people with the high MCATs are maybe not getting into their choice medical school, they then start applying to the other schools to see, okay, maybe I have better chances elsewhere. So the spike in application usually happens right at the beginning, and usually sometime October, November is when another spike happens from, again, the first wave of people that maybe didn't get early decision or things like that, and then they're like, all right, let me apply to even more schools now. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't do a primary. That normally means now they start doing secondaries. So you always want to try to apply to at least 20 schools on average. Send your primary to at least 20 schools, but maybe be strategic with your secondary.
When is the early for secondaries? Like, when do you prefer?
So you know, it's funny, when you ask what's the earliest you can apply, it really also depends on the applicant. So it's not only based on the application cycle itself, it really depends on the applicant, because if the applicant's not ready, then even applying early may not be the best thing. And I know you have a few questions on how to prepare your application and all that, so I will put a pin on whether or not you're ready, truly ready to apply to medical school, because even if you apply early, late, if you're not ready as an applicant, it's best maybe to not apply at all. So in an ideal situation, if you are absolutely ready to apply and your application is competitive, then on average you want to send in secondaries no later than, here for FAU, maybe no later than August, September. And a lot of people think that's late because AMCAS just
and we
opened
have the
this
Casper
week.
too, so
Okay,
that's
and we're gonna talk about that. But you want to send your secondary no later than September, I would say.
Okay.
Because we open up our admissions cycle when AMCAS does, which is the last week of May. You can submit your AMCAS. Secondaries really do not open till
Which is now.
We're
right in the
yesterday.
middle of everything.
It opened yesterday for the entering class of 2022, graduating 2026. And what happens is you can now submit your application, but it'll be about 4 to 6 weeks before the application makes it to the med schools. Once it hits the med schools, then people start sending secondaries. Some med schools will not send you a secondary unless you meet certain criteria. Here at FAU, we don't do that. We send everyone a secondary because we practice a holistic review for admissions, and I know we're going to talk about that later.
I wanted to ask also, how is the selection process? Like, how do you choose from the initial pool of applicants that are applying early?
So we have a rolling admissions. And what that means is that as applications are coming in, we're already screening them and reviewing them and seeing whether or not we want to interview them. So we do have minimums here at FAU, although it's holistic review, but we do have a screening minimum. So, and I know that's one of the questions that your viewers asked. And here at FAU, the minimum MCAT to be considered further for admissions is a 497. Okay. So with a 497, your application will have that initial screening. Right. Now, there's a lot of lingo in medical school admissions. The word screening means just a preliminary.
Just for them to be able to read it only.
Right. So the screening, that's my job. That's what I do. I screen all the applications that come in that have a minimum 497 MCAT. We also want applicants to have at least 3.3 GPA. Okay. And if they don't have a 3.3 GPA, then at that point I need to see graduate work. And I know that's one of your questions. So if you don't have an overall undergrad GPA of a 3.3, then we need to see grad work, no less than a 3.7. Okay. So this is all the touch points I'm doing on the initial applications to get the bulk of 4,000 people narrowed down to a more manageable number that then will be reviewed by faculty of the College of Medicine. So those 3 points, and Casper, yes, Casper is a requirement here at FAU. You can have a 530 MCAT. I know that doesn't exist, but you can have a perfect MCAT score of a 528, and if your Casper does not meet our minimum, you will not be further considered for admission.
If you, just in case you don't know what Casper is, I made a video explaining a little bit more about it, so I'll leave the link up here so you can check it out later. So next question will be, what does it mean to do a holistic review?
After the initial screening, just to make sure that certain metrics are met. Also that all the prerequisites are being completed or have been completed, that you have certain experiences. So that, again, that's my initial job of doing the pre-screening. I then forward those applications to a review committee. This review group within the FAU College of Medicine is all comprised of faculty for the FAU College of Medicine, whether affiliate, volunteer faculty, full-time faculty, and their job is at that point to take a deep dive of the application. That is the review. They don't have to worry about MCAT or GPA because I've already screened that. I've already given them applications that meet the minimum set by the College of Medicine as to who would have the academic aptitude to do well in medical school. Their job now is to, again, not worry about Casper GPA, but to actually take a deep dive and look at your entire application, read the entire essay. And you know what, when they are reading it, they are, some of them actually print it and use a red pen to actually circle and, you know, scratch off errors and grammatical mistakes. So be very, very cognizant when you're submitting that essay that is absolutely perfect and very legible, and it makes sense. That is some of the things we discuss later on after we've interviewed somebody is, did you all read the personal statement? Did that even make sense? How did it make it this far? So make sure your personal statement is strong because someone will be reading it very thoroughly. We then take a deep dive into your experiences. So the AMCAS allows you to submit up to 15 experiences. I would suggest you use all 15 spaces. Please use all 15 spaces and not making up stuff.
Yeah.
We're ethical here, right? We have some integrity. We're honest people. You're going to be future med students, so you should already exemplify things like integrity and honesty. But make sure you try to have 15 spots on that MCAT filled out. We want everything on that experience. So we want everything from your research, your volunteering, community service, leadership. We want to know any paid employments you have. We want to know hobbies, awards. So there are certain categories within the MCAT, fill them all. So each College of Medicine has a mission. And what they do is, their whole purpose is graduating physicians, yes, that's their specific mission. The job of admissions is to make sure we admit the students that we can already see exemplify certain attributes and traits within their application, and further, we can assess that during an interview to then make sure that the 64 here at FAU 64 students that get in will hopefully 4 years from now graduate and meet that mission.
Right.
So we're kind of trying to get to know you as a person at the beginning, and during medical school, what you get is just medical school. We cannot teach you empathy, compassion in medical school. We cannot teach you integrity and honesty and being a decent person and being a caring, selfless person. So that's what admissions' job is to make sure you already come in with all of that. And then when you get to med school, their job is to teach you just that, medical education. You're not going to learn to be empathetic here. You need to already come in with those attributes and traits. Where do we find those attributes and traits? In your application.
That was another question, like how can you tell an applicant is genuine and they're not making up stuff and they are really dedicated to medicine?
That is a question that all of us have had. As far as us, I mean those admissions officials within MD or DO schools, state of Florida, because I have a very close relationship with everyone in Florida, as well as in the country. That is the biggest thing, is how do you tell? Well, that's one, if we see something in an application that we really find that we want to get to know this person more, that's when we bring them into an interview. And that's why the interview is so important. And for med school, it has to be in person. You're not going to see any med school doing, yes, this year because of the pandemic we went virtual, but we've still told people they had to have their camera on because we were trying to assess that genuineness. We brought in multi-mini interviews this year that go hand in hand with Casper.
That was a new thing.
Why? Because again, we're assessing all these behavioral traits. So where Casper is a situational judgment test, testing certain attributes and traits, empathy, compassion, honesty, ethics, a whole list of things. There's 12 things it's testing for. The MMI is also made to test these attributes and traits. Why? Because MCAT and GPA you can see on a transcript, you can see on a test score. That's easy to assess. What's harder to assess is who you are as a person. So you're right. That's why we have multiple tools that we use in admissions to try to see your genuineness.
How is the interview an essential part?
Well, it's how we can actually tell, those people that are not being genuine from those that are, and it's our opportunity to again get to know you a little better in person. What happens during the interview day here at FAU, we're very particular. We're looking for students that, again, we're a big family, right? That are not competitive, hence why I'm sure you've already mentioned this, we're a pass-fail school first 2 years, because we don't want you guys competing against each other. You've already competed in what is a rigorous, nerve-wracking, I heard your word in one of your videos, admissions process to get here. Why would we make you not compete when you get here? Some schools are like that. They're dog-eat-dog, they're very competitive, they're, I've heard horror stories from med schools, and I will never tell you where, but I heard stories of people ripping pages off books, moving the pins from the cadaver so you learn it differently and get it wrong on your exam. It's not like that here at FAU. So the first thing we want to do on the interview is really try to pull off the veil and see, are you that gunner type of mentality? It's okay to want to do well, but are you cocky or confident? Confidence is good, amazing. Cockiness is bad. Here at the FAU College of Medicine, that is not what we're looking for. We want you to work collaboratively. We use PBL. Those are small groups. You work together. So it's not that you have to be this extrovert person that gets along with everybody, because we've had amazing success stories from introverts, but you definitely have to exemplify certain attributes and traits. Because our multi-mini interview has 8 stations. So the person does not do well in already 2, 3, 4 stations, and that is a clear indication that maybe this person is not the best fit.
Also, apart from the interview and the MMI, you and the deans of student affairs will also say something about the applicant, right?
We do. The interview day, although we tell everybody you're only interviewing that hour, I am observing. I am watching the applicants. This year, again, because it was virtual, I would say, okay, I'm going to step away from my computer to work for a little bit. I turned off my camera, but I was still watching the Zoom on my 2 screens because I was watching, are people yawning, are they falling asleep? I know it was a long day. It was very hard to do it virtually, but there, I was watching to see how engaged are you, how interested are you really at the FAU College of Medicine? And those are the people that I want here at the FAU College of Medicine School.
Yeah, I feel like there's just excess of mentorship.
There is.
You will find someone that's similar to you, similar to what you want to do. There's just, because we're only 67, there's excess of mentors per student. So another thing I wanted to ask is, are you planning to do the interviews in person or still online?
I am one of a few people within the state of Florida and even in the country that want to transition back to an in-person interview. However, I recently had a meeting with other counterparts of mine across the country through the AAMC, and a lot of people are still going to consider doing it virtually. I'm not a fan.
Right.
A lot of med schools tried to take the easier way out because putting a virtual interview together is a lot of work.
Right.
And I heard they were doing things like 2 hours and then having open houses like once a month for everything else, like for tours and stuff, all virtual. Where my interview day started at 8 a.m. Well, sorry, it started at 6 a.m. Pacific time, which was 9 a.m. my time, and went till 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which was about 1 o'clock Pacific time, because we have a lot of folks from California. Because I was not going to sacrifice the interview day at FAU. I reluctantly visit studentdoctor.net. Although I do not like that. I do not like that website. I'm not a fan of the website. It's a little negative sometimes. But I've gone in there, and the one positive comment I always see about FAU is that the applicants truly enjoyed our interview day. When they compared it to other Florida schools or other schools in other parts of the country, they love the FAU interview day. So when I sat down, I'll never forget, in May, and saw that this was happening. We were shutting down. We could not do in-person interviews. We were in meetings, again, with other counterparts from admissions officials across the country, the state. I was not going to sacrifice the interview day at FAU. You remember your interview day, and I think your interview day helped you decide you wanted to be here. So I said, nope, I'm not sacrificing it. We will be virtual from 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. And I would turn off my computer, my camera, and work at my desk. But again, I was always watching the applicants to see how they were engaging. So yes, our interview day right now, it's not definitive. The consensus around the country is they want to do virtual again. And unfortunately, I cannot go against the grain. I can't be the one medical school in the country out of 150-something MD schools that does in person.
Right.
Because then people may not want to apply
here.
Is
it fair to do maybe half of the cycle online? No, right?
No. In admissions, just so you guys know a little trick on admissions, when we start a cycle with one way, we have to stick like that the entire way. We can't say in the middle, oh, we're changing our criteria. In admission, when you start something, you have to go through the entire cycle with those criteria or the way you were doing things. You cannot change it so that every applicant had a fair chance. So if we start virtual, unfortunately, it will be virtual until the end of the interview cycle. But it's still too early to tell because none of us in admissions will start interviewing until end of August, beginning of September.
So next question will be, what makes an applicant stand out and what are some important things that will make them a good fit for our school?
Melisa, I can't tell you in my 16 years of career how many times I get asked that question. I recruit and I present all over the state of Florida, all over the country, and I cannot tell you after a presentation how many people flock to me and say, this is my specific case, what can I do to stand out? And it's become a message that I now say in my last slide in the morning presentation on my interview day, and now I say it in every presentation I go to, which is, there is no formula. There is no perfect candidate. There is no algorithm that you can do everything exactly one way and you'll be guaranteed to get into a medical school, because unfortunately admission is a numbers game. So just so you understand, this year we received 61% increase in applications. We think it's because of the pandemic, but normally we get a little over 4,000 applications for normally 64 seats. Yes, some classes are 66, 67, but normally 64 students, a little over 4,000 applications. So it is competitive. Yeah. And out of those 4,000 people, I easily get 2,000 people that are qualified. Still, 2,064 seats. So at the end of the day, it is a numbers game. And people ask me, what can I do? Well, there's some people that check off boxes. Every box you can talk about. You can say they check it off. And we don't, by the way, in admissions, we don't like when people check boxes. So I'll answer that question with this. But there are people that do everything they thought exactly the way they were supposed to and still don't get in. So my best advice to people is you need to be the best applicant you can be. And yes, I love the undergrad programs for pre-health in many schools here at FAU. We have an amazing undergrad pre-health program. And they're giving you a lot of advice, and a lot of them work closely with us. Because we cannot advise you, we're not counselors. We can't really sit down, look at your transcripts, and look at your plan and say, yes, this works well. We can give you general information. The place where undergrad students want to go to get advice is their undergraduate offices, their advisors, specifically pre-health, pre-med advisors, because they do have a link to us. Here in the state of Florida, I think there's over 100 pre-health advisors, and we present to them once a year. All the med schools, we get together once a year, and we present to the advisors in Florida, letting them know this is what you want to tell your pre-med students, because they're helping us give the message out as to how to be a better applicant. But honestly, Melisa, there is no perfect formula. There is no, if you do this, then you can guarantee to get in. So my advice is be the best applicant you can be. Do everything you possibly can before you send your application in to be the best and most competitive you can be. Take the MCAT, again, if you have to. You don't want to take it more. I know this was a question you had on your story. You don't want to take it more than 3 times. After 3, it starts becoming a little concerning. I've seen applicants take it 5 to 7 times. The most is 7, and I've actually seen an applicant submit an application with 7 tries. 5 is the most I've seen an applicant get an interview with 5 tries. But I don't suggest you try to be that applicant. Because they had a lot of other stuff that added to the application, including 2 master's degrees. So that's a little different. That's why I say every case is different, because there's no perfect formula. I have 4,000 applications. I have 4,000 different stories and different paths that people have taken here. And then you guys start, and there's 67 different stories within you guys as to how you got here to the FAU College of Medicine. So biggest advice I can give you is try to be the best you can. So if you have to retake it once, maybe 3 times, okay, but you need to be getting better every time. You can't take it a second time and have gotten worse. You need to be getting better. At the FAU College of Medicine, we do not super score. We take the best test that you've taken. So if your 3rd try was the best, if your 2nd was the best, if your 1st was the best because your 2nd kind of went down, then that's the one we're going to use. But if your 2nd goes down, don't think, oh, I think the 3rd time I can bring it up. If your 1st score was competitive, and competitive is around a 508, then that's where you want to kind of stop.
If it's less than a 505, would you recommend to take it again, right?
To be honest with you, yes, because as every admission cycle progresses, what I've noticed is the applications are getting more and more competitive.